Imagine taking a walk through Ice Age North America and spotting what looks like a bear in the distance. No big deal, right? Bears exist. Then it stands up. Suddenly, you're staring at an animal nearly 12 feet tall on its hind legs, with legs so long it looks like nature accidentally stretched a grizzly in Photoshop. At that point, you're probably no longer wondering what species it is, you're wondering how quickly you can become someone else's problem. Meet Arctodus simus, the giant short-faced bear, one of the largest bears ever to live and an animal so enormous that in overall body length it could rival some specimens of the famous Jurassic predator Allosaurus. Thankfully, the two never met. They lived about 145 million years apart. History occasionally does us a favor. But here's where things get interesting. For decades, scientists pictured this bear as an unstoppable predator that could outrun horses and bully every carnivore it encountered. More recent research, however, paints a more complicated picture. Was it really the terrifying super hunter everyone imagined, or was it simply the biggest freeloader the Ice Age had ever seen? By the end of this video, we'll uncover what this giant really looked like, how it survived among mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and dire wolves, and whether its fearsome reputation was fully deserved or just one of paleontology's biggest misconceptions. If you could somehow drop an Arctodus simus into Yellowstone today, every living bear would suddenly look a lot less impressive. This wasn't just a bigger version of a grizzly, it was built in a completely different way. While modern bears are bulky and relatively compact, the giant short-faced bear had unusually long legs, a towering shoulder height, and a body that made it one of the tallest mammals of the Ice Age. Standing on all fours, its shoulders could reach around 6 feet high, meaning your average adult would be looking it almost directly in the eyes before it even stood up. On its hind legs, it could reach nearly 12 feet tall. That's roughly the height of a standard basketball hoop. Its body stretched over 11 feet long, putting it in the same length range as some Allosaurus specimens, although the dinosaur was still considerably heavier and far more specialized as a predator. Its name, short-faced bear, can be a little misleading. It wasn't born with a squashed face like a pug. Instead, its snout was shorter than that of modern bears, giving its skull a broader, deeper appearance. That massive skull housed powerful jaws capable of crushing bone and tearing through thick muscle with ease. Whether it had just made a kill or arrived late to steal someone else's dinner, there wasn't much on the menu it couldn't handle. For years, scientists believed those long legs meant one thing: speed. The theory suggested that Arctodus could run down prey across the open plains, making it the ultimate pursuit hunter of the Ice Age. It sounded impressive, a bear built like a marathon runner. But as more fossils were discovered and analyzed, that idea began to lose support. Researchers noticed that while its legs were long, the rest of its skeleton wasn't necessarily optimized for sustained high-speed chases. Carrying close to a metric ton of muscle isn't exactly ideal if you're planning to sprint after a healthy horse. Instead, many paleontologists now think those long legs may have helped it travel enormous distances efficiently, searching for food across vast Ice Age landscapes where meals weren't always easy to find. And sometimes, finding food was much easier than catching it. Imagine a pack of dire wolves spending hours bringing down an ancient bison. They're exhausted, covered in blood, and finally ready to eat. Then a towering bear the size of a small car wanders onto the scene. No roaring contest, no dramatic fight, just a silent reminder that whoever weighs the most usually gets first choice. Modern brown bears regularly steal kills from wolves, and they're much smaller than Arctodus. Scale that behavior up to an animal this enormous, and suddenly being the best hunter matters a lot less than being the biggest animal at the dinner table. Sometimes survival wasn't about winning the chase, it was about showing up late and convincing everyone else that arguing wasn't worth the risk. For hundreds of thousands of years, Arctodus simus roamed across North America, surviving ice ages, shifting climates, and fierce competition from some of the continent's most formidable predators. Then, around 11,000 years ago, it disappeared. No descendants, no second chance, just fossils buried beneath layers of earth, leaving scientists to piece together the final chapter of one of the largest bears that ever lived. The timing wasn't a coincidence. The Ice Age was coming to an end, and the world was changing fast. Massive glaciers retreated, temperatures rose, and the open grasslands that had supported huge herds of mammoths, ancient bison, horses, and giant ground sloths began to shrink or transform. Many of those giant herbivores also vanished, taking with them an enormous source of food for predators and scavengers alike. At roughly the same time, humans were spreading across North America. While there's no definitive evidence that people regularly hunted giant short-faced bears, they certainly competed for some of the same resources. Humans became increasingly efficient hunters, and every mammoth or bison they harvested was one less opportunity for scavengers to exploit. Even if people weren't targeting Arctodus directly, they may have indirectly made survival much harder. The giant bear also faced growing competition from animals that were better suited to the changing environment. Brown bears and black bears were smaller, more adaptable, and required less food to survive. In a world where giant prey was disappearing, being enormous stopped being an advantage and slowly became a liability. Nature has a cruel sense of humor. Sometimes the biggest animal loses simply because the buffet gets smaller. Scientists still debate the exact cause of its extinction, but most agree it wasn't just one event. Climate change, declining megafauna, increasing competition, and expanding human populations likely combined into the perfect storm. Instead of one dramatic ending, the giant short-faced bear probably faded away over generations until the last one quietly disappeared. Today, all that's left are fossilized bones that tell the story of an animal so impressive it still captures our imagination thousands of years later. A bear that could stand eye to eye with a basketball hoop, intimidate nearly every predator in its path, and grow long enough to rival some dinosaur species in size. Not bad for an animal most people have never even heard of. If you enjoyed uncovering the story of this Ice Age giant, let us know in the comments. Do you think Arctodus was a true apex predator, or the greatest scavenger that ever lived? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want more incredible stories about prehistoric animals, fossil discoveries, and ancient creatures stranger than fiction, don't forget to like this video, share it with a fellow history or dinosaur fan, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you never miss our next adventure into Earth's distant past.